Illinois American's cost. Right. Director Smith tried to balance it out with how much more we're going to need to take care of the issues that we have with our water system.
I know it's not a race to get to the same rate as Illinois American, and that's not what we're trying to do, but it doesn't cost us a third less to run our system than it does for them to run theirs. I guess is the important thing to understand.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that. I'm cognizant of all that. I just don't want to, I want to be aware too that we at some point, our residents, our citizens are not piggy banks that we can just raise the rates of everything to get money that we need. I mean, we have to be at some point recognize that okay, 25% increase over 2 or 3 years, that seems to me excessive. Maybe we do it more gradually. That's my only point.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. If the increase was being used for a new flame-throwing pickup truck for the superintendent of public works, that's one thing. But if it's being used for the maintenance that has to be done, I think that the vast majority of our residents will say we understand.
Okay.
But hey, everyone has the right, and I understand what you're saying. Don't disagree with a portion of it, but I think that the reality of it is we have to pay for the cost, and we have to do it at a price that we can continue the service that we're providing.
Plus, part of the increase is to start actually replacing mains that need to be replaced, that are of the right age and everything. That's another thing other people aren't really doing, I don't think. Other water companies and utilities and villages and cities, they're not actually trying to figure out a way to be proactive. They're still being reactive. And part of this increase is to become a little bit aggressive toward changing some of these mains that we know are going to fall apart, just haven't fell apart yet. So it all, in the big picture, it all makes sense. I agree, 25% over 3 years is it's not an easy pill to swallow. And like I said before, if we have senior citizens that are having a hard time with it, I still think that we can be open and work and help them a little bit. I do, even though it's going to be a lot of extra paperwork on people, it's still doable. So.
All righty. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, once again, this is for board approval of ordinance 2016-1492, an ordinance amending the water rates as outlined by Trustee Harn. Mr. Administrator, will you please call roll?
Trustee Harn.
Aye.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Cumming.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert.
Aye.
Trustee Fuller.
Nay.
Okay, thank you. By a vote of 4-1, the board has approved ordinance 2016-1492 as outlined by Trustee Harn. Next order of new business is ordinance 2016-1493, which will be presented by Trustee Reichert.
Thank you, Mayor. This is an ordinance that will prohibit the parking of vehicles on the west side of Miller in between Manita and Clayton. There's been a lot of construction in that area, and we discovered that some of our emergency vehicles and other village vehicles are not able to safely get through that street with parking on both sides. So I make a motion that we approve ordinance 2016-1493.
Okay, we have a motion from Trustee Reichert.
Second.
Second from Trustee Carter. Are there any questions or comments from the board before the board votes? Okay, once again, this is for board approval of ordinance number 2016-1493 regarding the restricting of parking on the west side of Miller as outlined by Trustee Reichert. Mr. Administrator, would you please call roll?
Trustee Harn.
Aye.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Cumming.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert.
Aye.
Trustee Fuller.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. By a vote of 5-0, the board has approved ordinance 2016-1493 as outlined by Trustee Reichert. Our next order of new business tonight is the authorization to approve payment to Altorfer for the generator repair, and that will be presented by Trustee Harn.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. This is authorization to have work done on 2 different generators. One of the generators supply the electricity to the wells in the event of power outage, and the other generator is used to pump water up the hill in the event of power outage. Both generators need some work done. The first one is to replace a fuel injection pump a fuel transfer pump, and a thermostat, and that's priced not to exceed $4,088.17. And again, the bids are, these are for time and materials. These are just estimates, but the prices won't go over unless they find something really horrible in there. Then they'd have to come back to the board, and if it's over 10%, and go back for reapproval. But the second generator has a rear main seal leaking. So in order to change the crankshaft seal, they have to pretty much strip all the sheet metal off, take the actual generator apart from the engine, take it completely apart, put a new rear main in it, and what I don't like is that the engine only has 379 hours on it, and it has a rear main leaking, but whatever. That's $18,024.14, price not to exceed that. So we do have to have them both fixed, so I make a motion, we approve Altorfer to do the work and not to exceed $22,112.31 for both.
I have a motion from trustee Harn,
Second.
second from trustee Reichert. Any questions or comments from the board before the board votes? Okay, once again, this is for board approval of the authorization to make payment to Altorfer not to exceed $22,112.31 for the two generators repair, as outlined by trustee Harn. Mr. Administrator, would you please call roll?
Trustee Harn.
Aye.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Cumming.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert. Trustee Fuller.
Aye.
Thank you. By a vote of 5-0, the board has approved the payments not to exceed $22,112.31 to Altorfer for the generator's repair, as outlined by trustee Harn. Our next order of new business tonight is Resolution 2016-02, which will be presented by trustee Harn.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn. The resolution 2016-02 is a resolution to go into a contract with Pat Meyer and Associates Incorporated. There's two parts to this. The first part is $19,500, and that's to catch us up on all of the paperwork that we're sort of backdated on. This was an unfunded mandate that came along years ago, and now they're starting to make it, they're pushing it. So we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to get our paperwork straight. And part of the actual $19,500 will be, they're going to come in and work with our crew and Kyle, and they'll be helping us map out all of our storm sewers and where they discharge. In the future, this thing's going to become, it's going to become an animal. They're going to end up, you're going to have detention basins eventually for all your stormwater to run off. You're going to be testing it. They're going to be looking for salt and oil and anything else, and it's going to become something, but not now, but in the future, there's going to be something there. But anyway. The second part will be for a yearly contract with Pat Meyer and Associates for $3,500, and that's just to keep all of our paperwork up to date and just kind of keep us in compliance for now. So I make a motion that we approve resolution number 2016-02.
I have a motion from trustee Harn,
Second.
second from trustee Reichert. Any questions or comments from the board before the board votes?
Now, after, the 19.5 to get caught up for 2016 and 2017, so the 3,500 annually thereafter, how many man hours is that we're paying for? How cumbersome and involved is this reporting process that, 3,500 is a good value?
I'm not really sure.
Just curious. I'm not trying to pick you on it. But
3,500 essentially buys, I guess for lack of a better term, membership into a group of regional communities that have all kind of banded together to use, to basically have more power with respect to the Illinois EPA, where if all these small communities band together, and that group, that effort is essentially led by Pat Meyer and Associates. Okay. So that's a lot of what that's paying for. Actually, the work involved to stay compliant is actually much more than I wanted it. to be. So we've, the 3 or 4 years that I've been here, we've kind of been plodding through this, but we are out of compliance way back to 2003. So it's been kind of an insurmountable task to get back up to speed. I think the $3,500 will be pretty short money to stay where we need to be, especially when Trustee Harn brought up the fact that these regulations are ever changing and they're going to be ever tightening.
Oh, yeah.
I think we flew under the radar for many years. The state was focused on much bigger fish, and like Peoria, Bloomington, larger communities. They're finally getting through with them, and so now they're starting to look to the smaller communities, and so that's why now we're starting to get more attention than maybe we wanted.
Is there any way to quantify what their assistance would be with our annual reports? I mean, like Trustee Cumming was saying, do we get 10 man hours or 20 hours or anything like that? Because
And Mr. Myers here in the audience, if we want to ask him, and I don't want to speak for him, but I know part of the requirements IEPA hand down are, we have to have publish some articles and have them available to the public, educational type things. We have to have meetings, and this group does those things, spearheaded by Mr. Meyer, and we get to check all those boxes essentially. We don't have to individually do those things. The group can do them, so it's kind of, our buying power is much greater, by membership to this group. But, if you want to put it into man hours, I don't know.
I mean, so is it like we buy membership, and then from that membership, we have to buy more things in order to stay, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what that would be, the $3,500. I don't know.
Well, I believe that's for completing what's needed to be done to present the case as a huge community, correct?
The membership fee that we're talking about, the annual fee that we're talking about, each of the agencies that are in this group is called Central Illinois Committee on NPDS Group, so on. Name for the acronym is CICN. So what we do with that $3,500, and each agency varies in their membership fees depending on what that agency needs assistance with. The $3,500 is the minimum that some of the communities pay because, for example, Kyle, already does some of this stuff, and he's just taking advantage of the membership group. So the 35-page requirement from the IEPA dictates 6 different control measures that you have to meet. One is public education, another is public involvement. Those 2 right there get satisfied by the inclusion in the group because you're not only have to do that yourself, but you're able to take advantage of the other agencies in the area who are doing perhaps a river sweep, or they put out some type of newsletter. So that's your public involvement and public education, and you can gather that there's efficiencies of scale when you combine all those efforts into one. The other part of that annual fee comes into the annual report. Each year, the agency has to submit an annual report to the IEPA saying, here's what our plan of attack was, and here's what we actually did. Again, we take advantage of other communities' efforts and compile those all into our group's efforts and submit that to the IEPA. Another factor of that is we have varying meetings throughout the year depending on what the hot topic is. For instance, last year, there was a change in the MS4, I'm going to say MS4, which is the name of the community that has to comply with this. So there was a change in the actual requirements of each of those local agencies. So we had the IEPA down to our group, explained it. We had a question and answer system. I think we had 3 total meetings with the IEPA to gather the facts, and it changed from, in the beginning, it would change from a lot of requirements, and we were able to input our thoughts into those regulations as they were coming along and as they were getting finalized. We got down to a point where the final requirements of those of those local agencies was a lot less than where they started. So that's another power of that group, is to be able to have a direct ear to the IEPA and get the best result for your agency.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's always that MS4, isn't it? Yeah, it's always tripping you up, man.
I think what it turns out to be is that we've been dodging the bullet, the
That's what it sounds
stormwater bullet for quite a while, and we're now into uncharted territory that none of us are equipped to do, and we
Oh, yeah, I
have
just wanted to make sure
professionals
it
who
wasn't
can.
a $3,500 newsletter or something.
Oh, no.
You
In fact, I'm going to guess that, and I think Director Smith already told us that it was pretty much a bargain for what these things could go in other areas, so, am I right?
We are very fortunate to have access to this group in our area, in my opinion. So, I mean, it's, thanks to Mr. Meyer for actually spearheading this and setting it up. So it's a pretty good deal to belong to.
All right, any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, once again, this is for board approval of resolution 2016-02, as outlined by Trustee Harn. Mr. Administrator, would you please call roll?
Trustee Harn?
Aye.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Cumming?
Aye.
Trustee Reichert?
Aye.
Trustee Fuller?
Aye.
Thank you. By a vote of 5-0, the board has approved resolution number 2016-02, as outlined by Trustee Harn. Next order of new business tonight is resolution 2016-03, which will be presented by Trustee Harn.
Okay, thank you again, Mayor Allen. Resolution 2016-03, what that's basically doing is we're adopting aqua backflow to do our work for us. What has to be done is aqua backflow will send a survey to everyone pretty much in the village that owns property, and you'll fill out this survey, and that will determine whether you need a backflow preventer or not. Then, if it is determined that you need one, Aqua Backflow will contact these people and tell them, basically they'll come out and make sure that they do have one. If they don't, then one has to be installed. Then every 2 years, it will be checked to make sure that it's working correctly. So it costs the village nothing this way. It's a situation where we could pay part of it, or we could let the people who need them pay part of it, or pay for all of it. Or we could even increase the rate and we could make money off of it, but we don't want to do that. We just want to approve Aqua Backflow to go in, do the work that's needed, figure out who needs these, and then stay up with the EPA rules and regulations to keep this in effect. So I make a motion that we approve resolution 2016-03.
We have a motion from Trustee Harn,
Second.
second from Trustee Cumming. Any questions or comments from the board before the board votes?
So this is a zero-cost item, is that
To us.
to us? So do they pay for the mailing, or do we pay?
It's where Aqua Backflow makes their money is people have to pay a filing fee to file to prove that they have had the test done, that their backflow preventer is working. So it's essentially a pass-through. It's not going to cost us anything. We're not making any money, but this is a requirement, again, that we have with the EPA. And essentially the folks that it's going to affect are people that have irrigation systems and swimming pools.
Okay.
The typical homeowner does not have a backflow preventer and doesn't need to have a backflow preventer. They'll get a survey in the mail, they'll fill it out once, and they'll be done. And a lot of folks that do have pools and sprinkler systems, they already are doing this as part of their annual maintenance contracts with either a pool vendor or an irrigation company. The problem is the process has never been formalized on our end. So we're getting the results from some folks, we're not getting them from other folks, and we don't know everybody in the village that needs to have this work done. So rather than us try and do all the mailings and the printings and the filing and keeping track of this, It's easier, this company has carved out a niche doing this for hundreds of communities where they know right where to set the price so that it doesn't cost us anything. It's essentially a pass-through. And it's going to be $20 every 2 years that the person's going to have to pay for a filing fee to file this test.
So the mailings and stuff, that's all paid for by Aquaflow?
Yes, it works out. This is, I believe.
Because I saw the $1.45 a pop, and that could be $5,000 real quick. Yeah.
Right. Basically, this is a 3-year contract, I believe, and the way that the sequencing works with needing to do the initial survey and then needing to go back and send that out in another 2 years. The numbers have been massaged so that over the life of this ordinance, we will pay nothing. They expect to recoup all these printing costs and make however much that they need to make with the numbers that we have set here.
Okay.
So again, I know some communities charge, say, $10, and they subsidize the rest of the cost. Other communities have charged $30, and so they make $10 on everyone. 1995 is kind of right where we need to be so that costs are covered, but we're not making money. It's essentially just a pass-through to everybody that has a pool or an irrigation system. It's a state requirement that they have to do.
Okay, are there any other questions from the board? Okay, once again, this is for board approval of Resolution 2016-03, as outlined by Trustee Harn. Mr. Administrator, would you please call roll?
Trustee Harn.
Aye.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Cumming.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert.
Aye.
Trustee Fuller.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. By a vote of 5-0, the board has approved Resolution 2016-03, as outlined by Trustee Harn. Our next order of new business tonight is the authorization to approve payment for the ID card printer, which will be presented by Trustee Reichert.
Thank you, Mayor. The fire department is requesting to purchase a new ID card printer because the other one is woefully out of date. And they were quoted $1,975, and they'd request that it get paid out of the general fund because they provide badges for the street department and the fire department, and basically anybody that works for the village, I think, has at some time been issued an ID card. So I make a motion that we approve the purchase of this new ID card printer for $1,975.
I have a motion from Trustee Reichert.
Second.
Second from Trustee Carter. Any questions or comments from the board before the board votes? Okay, once again, this is for board approval of the purchase of the photo ID printer in the amount of $1,975, as outlined by Trustee Reichert. Mr. Administrator, would you please call roll?
Trustee Harn.
Aye. Sorry.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Cumming.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert.
Aye.
Trustee Fuller.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. By a vote of 5-0, the board has approved the purchase of the ID card printer in the amount of $1,975, as outlined by Trustee Reichert. Our final order of new business tonight is the approval of the 2017 MFT resolution, and that will be presented by Trustee Harn.
Okay, thank you again, Mayor Allen. I make a motion, we approve our MFT resolution in the amount of $52,812.80. This resolution, it will cover our asphalt patching, our salt, traffic control signs, flowable fill, sand and gravel, and preliminary engineering, and it will run through January 1st, 2017 through December 31st, 2017. Two things that it will not cover will be spray patching and seal coating, and that's because the prices kind of float a little bit. They adjust in the summer. So as we actually need these things, we'll have to come back and amend our MFT funds. So for now, I make a motion, we approve our MFT budget for $52,812.80.
We have a motion from Trustee Harn.
Second.
Second from Trustee Reichert. Any questions or comments from the board before the board votes? Okay, once again, this is for board approval of the 2017 MFT resolution in the amount of $52,812.80 as outlined by Trustee Harn. Mr. Administrator, would you please call roll?
Trustee Harn.
Aye.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Cumming.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert.
Aye.
Trustee Fuller.
Okay, thank you by a vote of 5-0. The board has approved the 2017 MFT resolution as outlined by Trustee Harn, which brings us to the payment of the bills, and those will be presented by our Administrator, Matthew Fick.
These are the bills for the month of November. Village expenditures, the total expenditures were $228,050.75. Total expenditures for the Waterworks Department, that same time frame, $120,851.37, submitted by Stephanie Turner, bookkeeper.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding the bills as read?
I move that we pay the bills as submitted.
We have a motion from Trustee Cumming,
Second.
second from Trustee Reichert. As for the payment of the bills, Mr. Administrator, would you please call roll?
Trustee Harn.
Aye.
Trustee Carter.
Aye.
Trustee Cumming.
Aye.
Trustee Reichert.
Aye.
Trustee Fuller.
Aye.
Thank you. By a vote of 5-0, the board has approved the payment of the bills as read. The board will now be asked to vote on retiring to executive session regarding personnel. You're more than welcome to stay through that, but the only thing we will be doing is coming back down to the chamber to adjourn the meeting. So I want to let everyone know the next departmental committee meeting will be held Tuesday, January 24th at 6:30 p.m., 24th, 2017. Next Board of Trustees meeting will be held Tuesday, December 20th at 6:30 p.m. This time we need a motion to have the board retire to executive session regarding personnel.
So moved.
Have a motion from Trustee Cumming,
Second.
second from Trustee Carter. All those in favor of the board going into executive session at this point, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, please say no. Thank you, the ayes have it. Board will now go into executive session for personnel, and we thank everyone for attending.